Hello, we're going to start working on part 3 of 3 for Module 6 textbook project. We'll start on page 41, and at the very bottom it's talking about using database functions. Excel uses 12 database functions that allow you to evaluate numeric data in a table. These functions each begin with the letter D for the data table, and that differentiates them from their worksheet counterparts. As the name implies, the D-average function calculates the average of numbers in a table field that pass a test. So the D-average formula is there, and then another often used table function is the D-count function, which counts the number of numeric entries in a table field that pass the test. Other database functions that we're already familiar with are dmax, dmin, and dsum. And we've used max, minimum, and sum before. On page 42, it says to create an output area. So it says to change the width of column O, P, and Q to 18. So I've already scrolled over a little bit. So O, P, and Q. We're going to select, and we're going to go format and column width and change it to 18. And then it says select O1 and type output area. And then it wants us to center the selection across the center the title across the selection O1 to Q1. This is step 2. So right click, format cells, alignment, horizontal, center across selection, and click OK. It says enter the other labels as shown below, bold the title styles O8 to O11. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So bold title cells O8. So I'm going to find O8 right here. I'll click on bold and center across O through Q. And then also O11 is going to be a title. So I'm going to bold that. And then I'm going to center it across the selection. And it says use the format painter to copy the formatting from the cell L1 to O1. So here's L1, format painter, O1. And then it says to copy the formatting from L2 to cells O12 to Q12. So L2, format painter, O12 to Q12. O12 to Q12. If necessary, make sure that cell O7 matches the formatting of O6. So O7 and O6 match. Okay. Now I don't know if you noticed when I did the format painter, it did the merge and center for this cell. So we're going to click on it again and format cells when we use the format painter and center across selection again. Click OK. It still did not work. Let's unmerge and center across selection. Sometimes when you use the format painter, it copies all the format, and that's not what we wanted on that one. Okay, so now we're set up correctly. Now we're going to type in the information from O2 on. So O2. Anytime you're in a hurry, you make simple mistakes. Now see it's wanting to autofill here, so I want just the word branch. So I've typed in the word branch and I'm going to hit delete, and that'll get rid of that extra text. And your text should look the same as what is in the textbook at the bottom of page 42, figure 6-59. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start putting our formulas in. We want the average Avon supervisor review, so we're going to click in this cell and we're going to click equals and then D average, and then the database is going to be A8 to I-22, and then supervisor review. Oh, 12, oh, 13. I may get an error message because I clicked on the cell instead. Yes, I did. So let me fix that and just type it in. The average. Oh, you know what I see? I did not put in a colon here. A8 to I-22. And 013 is supposed to be a O, not a 0. There we go. Now we have the information in. Now step number 2, once the D average here for our Brownsburg. So we're going to do the same thing. A8 to I-22, comma, and then supervisor review. And P12 colon P13. Enter. That's where we want the answer to be. And then close parentheses. And then supervisor review for Plainview. It's going to be the same thing. Equals D average. And it'll be A8 colon I-22 again. Supervisor review. And then this is going to, we're pulling data, tell it the branch and Plainfield in Q12 and Q13. Did I type in the Q? I did not. Q13. There we go. I'm noticing that I have more decimal points than what's in the answers here, so we will need to fix that in a minute. Let's see here, supervisor view, Q12 to Q13. And then step number 3, if necessary, Q12 to Q2 to Q4 with 2 decimal places. So I'm just going to hit a number here, and a number and 2 decimal places. And it says select cell Q5. And we're going to put in a count. So equals G count. And then A8 to A22, A8 to I-22. Supervisor review. is M2 and M3. So we're going to get our rating, and we're going to look for poor. So it's going to pull the words from here for our criteria, M2 and 3. Enter. And it's going to count all the people with poor ratings. And let's see here, now we're going to use the SUMIF and COUNTIF and match and index functions. SUMIF, COUNTIF, and match. Match function refers to the position number of an item in a range or a table. For example, if you search for a specific student name, the match function might find it in position 3 or the third column in the table. You can then use that number with the other functions, cell references, or searches. The index function returns the value of a cell at the intersection of a particular row and position and column position within a table or a range. For example, you might want to know the age of the 5th student in a table. Where the ages are stored in the second column, you would use the number 5 and 2, and that would eliminate the need to know the exact cell reference because the positions are relative. Okay, so let's play with this a little bit, the SUMIF function. So in Q6, we're going to put a total, which is a sum. So equals sum if they're checking and saving. So sum if, and then the range is going to be D9 to D22. That's where we're going to look to see if it is a checking and savings. And our criteria, I just said, is checking, savings. Remember, it's text, so that's not a divided by. And then we're going to E9 to E22. And this is what we're going to count, or add, sum. And it says apply the accounting number format style cell. So we're going to apply the accounting number format style to cell P2. So accounting number. I'm just going to use my drop down here. Accounting number. Okay, now we're going to use the count if. So we're going to count it if it's a loan. So count if they're a loan officer. Equals count if D9 colon D22. And if it's loans. Remember, spelling is super important. And there are 4 people that have loans. If you look at your the guide on figure 6-64 on page 45, you'll see that our numbers match. Okay, so that covers pages 44 and 45. Now we're on page 46 where we're going to do the match. And in cell Q9, we're going to type in 18481 as our lookup value. Now we're going to type in the employee number. So now we're going to put a formula in that's going to look up that person's name. So equals index, and then our range is going, or our array is going to be A9 to I22. And then we're going to match it with Q9. And then the range or the lookup array is going to be A9 to A22 again. I mean to A22 this time, because that's just a single column. And then we're going to type in 0. And then close parentheses. That's going to be our match. And a 0 will tell us if it is or isn't there. And then comma 3 is going to be the column number that we're going to return a value on. And I typed in something wrong. So let me quit talking and look. Make sure that's an I22. Sometimes I'll type in the wrong. Match Q9, A9 to A22, comma There's a space, but I don't think it matters. And I'm still getting an error message. So we're good. Nine. And 9, 22. Looks for the value of 89 to 822. 89 to 822. Well, that's set right. Well, I will come back to that in a minute. Okay, I figured out what the problem was. The formula is in there correctly. However, I typed the employee ID number wrong. So there is no employee number 18781. It's supposed to be 18481 if you look on page 46. And if you also look here, there is no 18781. So that's why it's returning an error. Not because the formula was wrong, but because the person that typed it in, me, made an error. So if I type in 18481, it returns the branch location of the employee, okay, which is Avon. All right, so now step number 42 on page 46 is to save it. So we're going to save it. Now, if you'll notice, I have one with a little bit different of a file name than you might have. Let's save it. And then now we're going to summarize our data. So you can create subtotals automatically as long as the data is sorted. For subtotals, the field on which you sort is called the control field. So you have to sort the field that you want to get subtotals on. For example, if you choose the branch field as your control field, all of the Avon, Brownsburg, and Plainfield branches will be grouped together within the data range. So on page 48, it says scroll to display the table. And it wants us to click any cell within the table. And then click the filters button if necessary. It's not clicked on. And then it wants us to click the filter arrow and click on the filter button in cell 8 to sort C8 to sort between A and Z. So C8 and sort. Let's do it the other way. Sort A to Z. Okay, so clicking sort A to Z. Now I have Avon, Brownsburg, and Plainfield. Okay, and now we're going to prepare to create subtotals. So for us to do that, we have to convert the table back to a range. So it says right click anywhere in the table. And then it wants us to go to table shortcut menu. And it wants us to convert the table to a range. It's going to ask us if we want to convert it to a range, because no longer will we have the little sort buttons and everything. And yeah, we do. We're finished using all of that. And we typed in, you clicked yes. Now we're going to display subtotals. So in one of the numeric fields we wish to subtotal, in this case column E, wants us to click on one of them, and then click the subtotal button. That's in the data tab and outline group. We're in the data tab already in our outline group, and it wants us to click subtotal. Okay. Click at the at each change in button. At each change in button, it wants us to click branch because that's what we want our subtotals by branch. Okay, to select it. If necessary, click the use function and then select the sum. Ours is already summing our totals. And then the add subtotal to list, click the account values. And clear any other boxes. All right. And then click OK. So now we have our subtotals. You notice we have our Avon branch, and now it's subtotaled. We have 9 million in accounts in Avon branch. In our Brownsburg branch, we have 6 million, and in our Plainview branch, we have 2 million, roughly. Okay. It says zoom to 100% magnification. We've already done that. And scroll so you can see the entire subtotal and outline area, and we can because we just looked at it. Now it wants us to use the outline feature. It automatically turns it on when we create a subtotal. So this allows us to hide or show data and totals. So it wants us to click the second outlining column header to collapse the outline and hide the data. So we have our column headers here, column 1, or subtotal 1, subtotal 2, subtotal 3, or outline 1, outline 2, outline 3. And it wants us to click the second one. And now it's hiding all of the other data, and it's just giving us our subtotals. Okay, kind of nice. Gets rid of all the extra data we don't need to see in our bank account managers. And one at a time, click the plus signs in column 2 on the left side, and it's going to expand it out. So there's all of our Avons. I click the second plus sign, it's going to show us all the Brownsburg, and the third one, it's going to show us all the Plainview. So we can actually look at specific things if we were wanting to look at specific data. Okay, now it wants us to save the file, Bank Account Managers with Subtotals. So I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to go to Save As. Don't click Save, click Save As. And then in your Documents folder, whatever one you're using, you're going to type in Bank Account Managers with Subtotals. And click Save. Okay, now it wants us to remove all the automatic subtotals. So we're going to go to the subtotal button and click it. And we're going to click on Remove All. And it removed them all. Now, step number 3 says close the file without quitting Excel. Okay, if you're prompted to save the file, don't. Okay, so we're going to go File, and then we're going to Close. And it should just close that file, so don't save. And then now it wants us to open the Bank Account Managers file again. That's the one before the subtotals. And it wants us to display the table. Click any cell in the table. And click the Filter button. So in the Data tab, a Filter button. And then it wants us to sort the data in ascending order by name. So here's our name column. And it wants us to sort it in ascending order by name. Okay, ascending. Then drag to select cells B8 to E22. So B8 to E22. Then it wants us to display the Insert tab and click Insert Hierarchy Chart button. So we'll go to the Insert tab. And under Charts, we have a hierarchy chart. It's the one that looks like 3 boxes. Okay. We'll click on it. And it's going to give us a choice. And we want to, on page 52, it wants us to click on the tree map. Click on tree map. Now it's going to give us a choice of different ones. It says the 6th chart style. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the one with the dark background. And it says click the Chart Elements button, located at the right of the chart, Chart Elements. And then it wants us to remove the legend. And then it says point to each chart, rectangle in the chart, and it's going to show the data points. Okay. Quentin has loans, and he has $4 million in it. Javier Nunez has loans, and he has $3 million. Julia Day has loans, and it's $1 million. Now, my colors and your colors may not match because I was working on something else a little earlier. So if that's the case, then yours should most likely look like what's in the book. Okay. Okay, so that's step number 2. Now let's look down at the bottom of page 52. Now it wants us to move the chart and edit the fonts. So it says click the Move Chart button. We have a button up here that says Move Chart. And what it wants us to do is it wants us to move it to a new sheet. So we're going to click on New Sheet. And it wants us to change the sheet name to Manager's Tree Map. And then click OK. And then right-click the chart title. And it wants us to change the font size to 24. And then it wants us to type in new money accounts here. And then click any of the data labels in the chart and change the font size to 14. So I'm going to click on Home and change it to 14. It changes them all to 14. Okay. And then edit the tree map settings. It wants us to right-click any of the rectangles to display the shortcut menu. And click on Format Data Series. And click Banner in the Label Options. Banner in the Label Options. And then it just has us click on it. So we have the banners. Now it wants us to right-click any of the data labels. And it wants us to format data labels. And then it wants us to check values. So it puts the values in there for us. And then click the separator arrow. And we want it to make it on a new line. Okay, so now we have the values on a new line. Okay, and now we are finished. So now we're going to click on Save. But before we do, we need to go File and then Save As. And this one is Bank Account Managers with Tree Map. So click on here with Tree Map. And then we're done. Save. Have a wonderful afternoon or day or evening.